What is up, my sultry strangers? Today, we're taking a look at the new Star Wars Black Series The Stranger, aka Qimir figure. Is this smiley boy worth having, or is it stranger danger? Let's find out, shall we? Ah, the Acolyte. Say what you will about the show itself, I personally quite liked it. But it did certainly prove to be pretty divisive, didn't it? I'm definitely pretty bummed about its cancellation. I really would have loved to have seen more and learned more about this guy. But one thing that fans have almost unanimously agreed upon is the fact that the stranger here is one of the coolest characters in recent memory, and all of his fight scenes are some of the best in the saga, at least in a very long time. And I certainly do not disagree with that at all. From the moment he floated onto our screens like a goth Mary Poppins, I was in love. He's got a cool mask, he headbutts frickin' lightsabers, he's got biceps for days. What more could you want? And all this without really knowing anything about him, maybe even his real name. Qimir, as far as we know, was just an alias. But both the Stranger and Qimir are pretty badass names, so either way, I think you're good. Now, as is often the case with cool Star Wars characters, I immediately wanted a figure of him, and I am so happy that he is finally here. I'll be honest, I'm really kind of quite surprised he came with so much. The package was totally filled out, which feels rather rare for a mainline Black Series release. You have his two sabers, you have the alternate masked or unmasked head, depending on how you look at it. He has his poncho, the soft goods kind of middle robe. I mean, there's definitely a world in which this guy was released as a deluxe figure. Goodness knows, suckers like me would have paid more for it, but I am so pleasantly surprised that they just released him normally. More of that, Hasbro, please, please. Now, starting with the package, he is number 10 in the Acolyte line. It feels crazy that we've gotten 10 Acolyte figures when some of the other movies and shows haven't even gotten that many. But we have some really nice, beautiful art on the back of the box showing off just how menacing and imposing he is. Really, you'll have to forgive me. I really need to learn who makes the art for these new boxes. Whoever they are killing it. Look at that. That mean mugging smiley guy. So cool. I guess we'll start with the sculpt. As you can see, it's not 100% perfect to Manny Jacinto. It's not far off, though. I can still tell who this is supposed to be. He just looks maybe a little older, maybe a little meaner. Qimir certainly was mean in the show, but he also had sort of a calmness, a coolness about him, too. Taking on all those Jedi really was a piece of cake for old Qimir. He was as cool as a cucumber. I don't think he really has many reused parts from other figures. At least sculpting on the robes in the front and in the back with a little crisscross there, and also his poncho. Very nice. This is a nice poncho. I think Cal Kestis would be very jealous. It's a nice soft plastic. It looks like it might be two pieces. It's either glued down or it is just sculpted all in one piece. Looks like it could come apart, but it doesn't. But that's okay. I like it. I like how it kind of drapes. Again, they easily could have made this a soft goods piece as well, but there's something about the way that it just hangs and just how kind of bulky it makes him that I don't think really would have translated well if they had stuck with the soft goods. Again, comparing this to, say, like Cal Kestis's poncho, which is a little bit slimmer, a little bit more narrow and form-fitting, but Chimir's kind of bulks him up a bit. He's a very lean guy. Obviously, I did take the poncho off of the unmasked one just so you can show off those sweet Manny Jacinto biceps. Ooh la la. But I am keeping the poncho on the masked version. I just think it looks really cool. I did hit with a matte spray. It didn't help too much, so I'll probably go over it again, maybe even with some extra black paint. The original one was just a little too shiny. So the matte spray just helped kind of even it out a bit. I don't know if you can quite tell on this, but the colors do not match. The poncho here is a bit more of almost like a bluish or purplish black versus just like the true black of the pants. But either way, I do think it looks better, just a little slightly less shiny, because he lives in a cave, you know, he's not going to be doing laundry too often. Makes his neck look just a little squat, or it obscures his neck, I should say. Whereas in the show, it kind of bunched up more towards the neck, almost in like an overlapping sort of way, like one of those like big chunky knit sweaters, you know? It's not the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily make him look like he has no neck, and as we'll see here soon, the neck on the masked one is just a plain black piece, so you're not missing much. He does also come with that second soft goods piece between the poncho and tunic. I think it definitely helps when you have the poncho up over it, just because of the folds. I don't think this is necessarily meant to be displayed like this. You could, of course, if you wanted just some extra width to Qimir, but I think he looks perfectly fine as is. Now, characters with bare skin can sometimes be a little hard to pull off on figures, especially if the figure has a lot of articulation like the Black Series figures do, or the now infamous basketball Gambit figure.
What the hell?
It does help that the arms have a nice kind of dirty wash on them as well. It helps kind of obscure that overly plastic look that a lot of skin tones can have. I will say, because of the wash, the skin tone doesn't quite match on the neck. I may add a bit of a wash on there as well, just to help even it out a bit. He did get down and dirty. He was not at all afraid. So seeing him too clean, it's not out of character for him. He did have that ooh la la steamy swim scene. But I do like the wash they decided to give him. It is a little heavier on one side, like sort of a brown wash. Doesn't quite look like, you know, he's sticking his hand in poopy or rolling around in the mud. The sculpt on the hair is really nice as well. I do like the individual strands we get. It seems like such a kind of silly detail, but they really have come such a long way on hair sculpts as well. They don't look just like kind of a plasticky blob sitting on top of the figure's head, which is very nice. I'm just noticing too as well, when you get him under certain lights, you can see kind of the almost dimples on his cheeks. That you can kind of see him there where the shadow from the hair falls on it. Very blue steel of you, Qimir. The torso piece, like I said, I believe from the waist up is all new. I certainly don't remember seeing it on a figure before. Maybe it was like underneath another piece. I do think the belt is new as well. We do get some fairly nice soft good pants. When his legs are close together, they look like just a big old skirt, but they are almost like MC Hammer pants, if you will. And below those are an extra set of legs. I do think these are borrowed from the new Phantom Menace Darth Maul, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, he looks good. He's got that drip on, as the kids say. He's all dripped out, ready to go fight some Jedi, recruit some people to his cause. You know how it goes. His little Cortosis gauntlet is a separate piece, so you can kind of rotate it as need be all the way around. There are some parts that stick up a little more, so if you have that, it kind of hinders the articulation. But it's an easy enough fix where you just scooch it on back to the, I'd say, side, because if you put that long bit onto the back, it'll probably get bent and folded up underneath his elbow as well. I can't quite tell if it's cast in sort of like a dark coppery color with maybe like an almost, what is that, aqua blue wash, or if it's vice versa. The light blue really does help break up the look of it, and you can really only see it in certain lights. Very much looks like kind of an old, slightly worn down penny that you might find. Articulation is as good as you would want on a figure like this. We do have the ball jointed head, and of course you do get a little bit more movement on the Qimir head than you do on the Stranger head, especially if you do keep the poncho on it. It does have some nice motion, but you're not going to get much up and down. Of course, you could remedy that by just taking off the poncho, but again, that is such a cool poncho. We do have swivel hinge shoulders, and I really would have loved for them to start implementing a butterfly joint. Lightsaber users, I think, can really only benefit from them. No upper bicep swivel, but I'm okay with that. Again, on bare skin, it can sometimes make it look a little too strange, a little too plasticky. A swivel hinge elbow, and these are nice and pinless as well. And then we get the new kind of ball jointed wrists. I still don't quite know how I feel about these. You don't really get as much range as you did from just like the plain swivel hinge. You can kind of make, I don't know how to describe it, maybe like some more natural poses versus just like, if that makes sense. But because the hand is essentially hitting just the arm itself, you really don't get much movement. I will say though, unlike my Anakin and Obi-Wan figures that have those new wrists, these wrists do not pop out super easily. I don't know if it's just because the other ones were made to be swapped or if they're kind of fine-tuning it still, but either way, thank you for that. We do have a barely ball-jointed torso. You can kind of go any which way you want, but it is hindered by his big chunky belt and just kind of the curvature of his upper robes. If I may show you an upskirt shot of Qimir here, a lot of people would love to take an upskirt look at Manny Jacinto, but he does have that kind of typical barbell crotch, does have an upper thigh swivel, single knees, unfortunately, that really only kind of go 90 degrees, and then your pretty typical ankle rocker. But he does have a boot cut as well, actually, I just noticed. This allows for a little bit more movement. He's pretty well articulated, not too bad on the waist up. Obviously, depending on how you have him, that articulation may change a bit. Luckily, because the way that the poncho is cut, it's completely open on the side, so you still get some good movement. Go forward, backward as much as you want. It's not really going to stop him, because let's be honest, you're going to want to get this guy in a lot of cool poses to fight off the Jedi. Accessory-wise, he does come with his two lightsabers, the long one and the short one, the Shoto blade, I believe it's called. I really do like Chimir's saber, and I love how on the show the smaller hilt like kind of pulls out of the bigger one. It's not quite a double-bladed lightsaber because obviously this one is much smaller, and there's really no way I think they could have done that on these guys. As you can maybe see, a little hook on one and a little peg on the other. So at first I thought maybe you could kind of peg them together, but they don't connect in any way, which is fine. And I will say one thing I really like about these sabers, especially, there are no little divots on the saber. Not only is the saber a bit of a thicker one as well, but there are no little divots that line up with the hilt, meaning you can put it in any which way you want. You can twist it, turn it. It's not going to bend. It's not going to not fit. And then he has his helmet as well, which in terms of Star Wars helmets, this may very well be my all-time favorite. It's very reminiscent of Kylo's in that you get the dents and the cracks from just how brutal a fighter he is at times, and how he's almost kind of like welded it back together in some spots. The copper color I didn't really love at first. It definitely skews a bit more black in the show just because of how it's lit, but considering it is, I believe, also made out of cortosis, the copper color really does help set it apart and make it look like something that is kind of ancient, very old, very worn down, as opposed to like the sleek kind of shinier masks of like Vader, even Kylo when he first gets his. And of course, probably the coolest part, those little slit eyes and that really jagged, kind of zippery smile that stretches halfway around his head. Oh, so cool. So cool. Very reminiscent of Abeloth as well. Wonder if it would have tied in to her as the show went on. But of course, this is why Some fans have labeled him Darth Smiley, which I do really like. But there's some really, really nice sculpting just on the helmet alone. You get, of course, like I said, the cracks, the dents that are painted in a different color to really help stand out. Get a bit of a wash in some parts as well, almost like a scarring on the helmet. Just like spoilers for the show, but he has the scarring on his back as well. Just some awesome, awesome sculpting here. You can see as well it has like some different textures in different places. Like some parts are a little more worn down than the others. Just so, so cool. I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. And the mask does get its own little dedicated neck peg as well. That way, when you put the helmeted head on, you don't get the neck kind of showing through. It is still sculpted the same, so you might want to make sure you have a little Adam's apple lined up in the front. I mean, it still looks cool because it is Qimir, but you don't want to have his neck showing there. The more black, the better on these Darksiders. And again, it was a bit of a wait for this guy, but I am so, so glad we did wait, because there is a time when they just made the helmet an oversized hollow piece that you just put over his head, but we all know that would have gotten warped to hell. So I'm glad they waited and did it this way. All in all, I am just really in love with this figure. I think it was well worth the wait. Other than maybe like some extra articulation here and there, this figure really is everything that I wanted it to be. Just a perfect representation of the character, both in and out of the mask. And even though he's pretty basic, all things considered, look-wise, that mask alone has more than enough personality to make up for the rest. I mean, look at it. Oh gosh, even kind of the Vader look. I never really noticed that, the Vader kind of silhouette in the back there. See, I'm just noticing more and more things that just make him even more cool in my mind. I really, really hope we see this character again in something. He was such a breath of fresh air in terms of Star Wars antagonists that both look cool and actually play an important part in the story. But let me know what you guys think of the Stranger slash Qimir figure. Are you picking him up? And if so, are you doing masked, unmasked, both? Let me know as well what other figures you would like to see from the Acolyte. Personally, I think if we were to get Torben and Mother Anastasia, I'd be pretty content with the lineup. I don't necessarily see us getting more Acolyte figures, unfortunately. The Stranger and the fact that he is number 10 feels like a nice way to kind of wrap up this little subline, but I would happily get any figures they gave us. Let me know what you think. Thank you so, so much for watching, you guys. It really does mean a lot. I will be back soon with more creepy collection content. But in the meantime, don't forget, stay spooky.